Hey everybody, this is Joe/FoozleCC, and today we're going to be talking about how you can implement some smooth camera control inside of your Construct 3 game. We're going to make it feel just like Google Maps in terms of how you zoom in and zoom out and how you can pan by clicking and dragging across the map. That can be useful in RTSs or any game where you want to present a map or this type of camera control. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So let's take a look at Google Maps because this is, I think, the standard for how you can browse and maneuver around a map. And this is what we want to recreate inside of Construct 3. We want to be able to have the same feeling as we zoom in and zoom out of our game. So let's go ahead and see inside of C3 how we can recreate this same type of feeling. So here we are inside of the layout. I've got a nice little simple background of a AI generated map that we can use to demonstrate our purpose. So this is what we're going to be making. Let's go ahead and if I zoom in on this point, you can see how I can zoom in right where my mouse is aiming. I can also zoom out where my mouse is aiming. And this gives you the user a feeling of control over the map. You can also click and drag. And I've also implemented a third feature, which is kind of that panning when you have your mouse at the edge of the map, kind of like an RTS. I think of Age of Empires and StarCraft and some of the games I played growing up. This is always something you'd be doing as you'd be selecting your units and moving them forward. Anyway, so let's go ahead and see how this was done. Also, this template's going to be available on my itch page. I'll make the link available down in the description. So go ahead and give it a download there and implement it inside of your own game. Also, if you're enjoying this video, consider giving me a thumbs up or subscribe. It makes a big deal to me. So anyways, let's go back to how we did this. So inside of here, there's two objects. I've got this camera zoom point, which is going to be useful for how we do some of our math. And I've got this camera object, which actually has the scroll to behavior, which is what we're used to using for camera control inside of Construct 3. You can see here I've also got a range of other properties that are instance variables that are going to let us do the math, kind of keep track of it, and also set some of our values such as the min and max scale that we want to be able to zoom in and zoom out of our game. So let's go ahead and look at the event sheet now. And I've contained it all within this camera event sheet. So inside of your game, if you copy these two objects into your object folder, you can just go ahead and copy this whole event sheet and it should work for you. So inside of here, the first thing I've got is just the simple, all right, let's just toggle full screen or cancel full screen by tapping F. Feel free to implement this or not use it inside of your game. The next block of code is this panning. So this is that pushing the edge. I'm using a simple edge detection padding variable here for 32 pixels that you can use to control how close to the edge you want to be able to push the map around based off how close you get to the viewport edge. So I'm just doing some checks here for the left, the right, top, and the bottom. And this is doing the actual moving of the camera with the scroll to, which moves it. The scroll speed contains the variable for how fast you want it to move. Moving on to the click and drag, it's done with a pretty simple event. You go ahead and you check if the left mouse button is down and if it's moving. And then what you're able to do is in this action, you can set the position of the camera using the mouse.movementX and the mouse.movementY expressions. This gives you the value of the distance that your mouse has moved. And then we can multiply that by our scroll speed. And then similarly, we're able to cap the position of the camera by the layout bounds, the layout width and layout height, so that you aren't going off the edge of your map. All right, now we're going to move on to the third and final section, which is zoom. And it was probably the most difficult. Now for this, there's a couple things we're going to do. First of all, it's going to be triggered based off this mouse wheel up and wheel down. And the actual thing that's changing the zoom is the system expression set layout scale. And we're going to be setting that to the camera.currentScale instance variable. And in the beginning of the layout, I just kind of set it to 0.5. You can set it to whatever you want. But then what we're going to be doing is every tick, we're going to be using the same action to set the scale of the layout. But what we have to do is we have to figure out the math of what should the current scale be, and then also how should we shift the camera so that it's smooth on like the actual point of your mouse. So on these triggers for when you move the mouse wheel up and down, which is how we're going to trigger this thing to zoom in and out, there's a couple things you're going to do. First, you're going to actually set your target scale. And this is basically saying, okay, what is my target scale? I'm going to multiply it by some factor. And I have this zoom speed, which I kept set to 0.1. So I'm either going to increase it or decrease it by 10%. If you want it to be finer, you can make it less than 0.1. Or if you want it to be bigger and faster, you can make it more than 0.1. And I'm also similarly clamping it by the min and max scale so that you can't zoom out forever or zoom in forever. Then what I'm doing is I'm setting this zoom point X, and I'm storing it on the instance variable of the camera. And what I'm doing is I'm finding the layer to canvas position of my mouse. So wherever my mouse is when I trigger this, I'm going to convert that coordinates to my canvas coordinates using this layer to canvas expression, and I'm going to save that. And then lastly, I'm also going to put my camera zoom point object to that same position, and then that's going to be useful as I go to the next step. So then every tick, what I have to do is I have to go through and I have to do some math. First, I'm going to end up checking. I'm going to do a check here, an if-else statement of if I'm at my target, if I'm within a certain threshold, I want it to snap to that target because I'm going to do a lerp to make it smoothly go in and out. And I just want to clamp it when it gets close. So that's what this is doing. But this is zooming. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set my current scale. But something's happening here. As I zoom in, the position of my camera zoom point has changed. And to demonstrate that, I've got a little PowerPoint here that we'll take a look at here. So imagine this is our map, right? And this is my camera and this is my zoom point. And say I'm right here and I wanted to zoom out, right? So when I zoom out, what happens is, you know, my camera is still right here. If you remember, my mouse was on this little brook. And when I zoom out, this position on the canvas, even though my mouse was here originally, has now shifted. Right? Because, you know, I went from here to here and it's no longer at the same position on the map. So the trick that I have to do is I have to find this offset and I have to apply it to my camera so that I can shift it so that this is the old position of the camera. I have to shift it by that amount that we were offset so that this stays in the same position. So hopefully that made sense to you. Again, this is where we were. Then when we zoom out, you can see that it actually shifted on the canvas, even though it's in the same position of the world. And then similarly, we need to shift the camera over so that then this overlaps this again, and it all feels smooth as you zoom in and zoom out. So the way you do that is you come in, and after you've done the zoom out or zoom in and you've set the layout scale, you go ahead and you convert to the canvas position where this zoom point is now after you've zoomed in or zoomed out. And then I calculate the offset. So what's my offset X and offset Y? And then I calculate on the canvas where my camera needs to shift so that that position is accurate on my mouse X and mouse Y. And then the last step and the final step is I need to convert it back from the canvas to the layout, to the layer by using canvas to layer X and canvas to layer Y of that X calc and Y calc position. And then you are good to go. This min and max is similarly like all the other things. It's just clamping it so that it stays within the layout width and layout height of your layout. So you can't zoom out and see something outside of your map. And there we go. That is our tutorial on how to do a smooth scrolling map inside of your game. Again, this is going to be available as a template on my itch page. Go ahead and go to the description down below and give it a download. Give me a thumbs up or subscribe if you enjoyed this, and good luck on your game dev journey.